doing that, we should also be able to record it, but I'm not seeing it says it's being recorded. Did you see
see myself? It does say it's being recorded.
Okay, perfect. So we should start to be able to see participants here, attendees.
I can't see myself.
It's a little early, but oh, there's Tim. Hey, Tim Kelly. Hey, Sue. Now they're jumping in.
Yay!
Hey, do me a favor. We're a little early, so feel free to just write in chat where you coming in from, what part of the world, and what's your burning question you wish we answered in the next 45 minutes. Type it in chat. I don't guarantee we'll get to it, but I guarantee I will read every place you are. I'm Bob Phibbs, the retail doc, but you don't really have to worry about that. You should be looking at our title, which is Cracking Your Profit Code, and I will introduce our guest today. But do me a favor, put that in chat. Where are you joining us from? We have almost 200 people joining us today, and if you're watching this on replay, well, you're missing part of the party. You should always attend. But those of you at the party, I want to hear. So tell me, where are you joining from? What's your burning question? Sue is from Boston. You must be enjoying a nice day like I am, man. I'm upstate New York. Kelly is in Augusta, Georgia. That was just the PGA Nationals there, wasn't it? Susan, Summerlin, BC, Canada. And Ron is Belmont, North Carolina. Come on, you all know how to type. This always works better if you just stay focused. Jump in. Hazel from the Turks and Cacao. My goodness. That's awesome. Tim Kelly is from San Luis Obispo. All right, nice. It's probably cloudy there. It's early in the morning there. I had somebody say, that's really 8 a.m. Pacific time. Like, yeah, sorry about that. Jennifer and I are on the East Coast, so we're fine. David from Sioux Falls. That's great. Again, if you're just joining us, tell me where you're joining us from. We are starting right at 11, and make sure that you have your questions ready for us. How's that? Astoria, Oregon. Very nice.
South Africa, wonderful.
Hilditch Beer, South Africa. Very nice. Vanessa, Kamloops. Always sounds like a fun place to be. Lara from Scottsdale. Thank you very much.
Vanessa asked a great question on my Facebook page about the markdowns.
Aha. We have lots we're going to talk about today. Probably way too much for our time allotment, but I'm so grateful to have Jennifer with us, but we're not really talking yet. We're just trying to get you guys involved. So do me a favor. Where are you joining me from? What part of the world? Type it into chat. And what's your pressing question? Nobody joins. Yes, thank you. My phone just told me that the webinar is starting. That's nice. If we don't have any, then it's luck of the draw. So I don't see any questions now. We are at 11 a.m. So I'm going to stop the share. That means we can now just be me and Jennifer. Hey, everybody, it's Bob Phibbs, the Retail Doc. Thanks for joining us today for this special webinar, Cracking the Code. And my guest today is Jennifer Rust. She is the founder and CEO of Creative Profit Planning. She's a former specialty store owner and a seasoned CPA. She works to develop roadmaps to profitability for independent retail stores, guiding them down the path. Yes, I'm reading this. I don't know this exactly. Down the path to the resolution of their financial challenges and putting more money in their clients' pockets. If you aren't paying attention now, then I don't know what to tell you, because she knows her stuff. She's been where you are. And more importantly, she shares that knowledge with entrepreneurs who are willing to commit to tightening their belts, following a plan, and opening their eyes and hearts to the possibility of financial freedom. She's got a diverse group of clients, and both large and small, all over the U.S. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm very excited to be here with you and your guests.
Fabulous. Well, we were starting this that Jennifer is used to presenting, like doing a deck. And we certainly can do that, but it is 2024 and we were thinking, could we do something different? So I always believe we should start off with the basics, Jennifer. Do you have anything you want to add before we get going? Anything you want to tell us?
No, just I want everyone to know that Bob likes to challenge me, so I'm hoping that he doesn't put me on the spot too much. He made me do a preview video with like no notice, no makeup, no
That's the way we roll here, my
my
friend.
yoga clothes, so yeah.
So we started this week. I asked my Facebook fans if I bought something at $50, what should I retail it at? And man, we had so many interesting questions. And then my favorite, which was, it depends.
Does
It
depend.
depends if someone else is selling it, right? It depends if I can get more. Or the other side, which somebody put 83.20, I think, which was so jarring. It was like you're giving 20%, you're only getting $20 over $33 over its price. And so I am a big believer. I was on a webinar yesterday, and I swear to you, I was 20 minutes in and all they talked about was promos for themselves and why they were great and you should listen. I am about, we have to give value immediately, Jennifer. So maybe you could just start us into that discussion about how do I decide what I should mark something up as?
All right, great. So I asked the same question on my Facebook page, and I got equal crazy answers. Let's see here, guys. Let me make
Oh, you're
sure
going
I
to show us it. All right, nice.
show you some stuff. Let's see if
And you
I
can all see our slides, right? Put a Y in if you can see our slides. Put a Y in chat down below as you can see our slides. Just put that in for me so I know you're out there. Perfect.
all right.
And,
So
and again, Jennifer is picking things out of her deck to talk to us about this morning. So
already having trouble with her technology here. So hold on a second. There we go. All right.
perfect.
So, Bob and I both did the same thing regarding initial markup. We asked the question, if you buy something at $50, how much do you sell it for in your store? And we both got equal crazy answers all over the board. He got some that were really low and I got some that were really high. So it was interesting. But what we didn't get, neither one of us got, was the why. Like, why do people mark up what they mark up? And when I ask them how, this is what I get. I multiply the cost by 2.2, or I double the cost and I add $1 or $2, or that's just how I've always done it. That's what I always price it at. Like, but when I ask them why, nobody can tell me why. Why do you shoot for a particular initial markup? And so that's what I want to tell you, is that there is a why. Not only is there a why, there is an absolute definitive, you must have an initial markup of at least this much in your store in order to at least make your store break even.
Well, that's why I think I want to just chime in there is there's consequences when you don't do it right.
That's right. And so we're going to talk about those consequences. So in order to know what you have to have for an initial markup in your store, you have to understand three key elements. You have to be able to identify them. If you can't, well, we can answer that at the end. So you have to understand what your percentage markdowns are in your store, which most POS systems will give you. I have a little example of that. You have to know what your operating expenses are as a percentage of sales, and I'll show you where you can find those. And you have to have a target desired net profit. You have to be expecting that you're going to have something left on the bottom line for yourself. So that calculation, once you can identify those things, there is a calculation, and it looks like this. You take those markdown percentage, the percentage, your markdowns as a percentage of sales, your operating expenses as a percentage of sales, and that net profit goal, and you divide it by 100% plus the markdowns. I know you're all getting your cameras out right now, so.
I can hear the clicking even as we're talking.
Can you see this box with our pictures in it?
Yeah,
You
we're
can,
off on the side.
you can see that on my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put us up there. Okay. So,
So I think it's important that everybody understands. I know some of us, we feel like our eyes glaze over anytime we see a spreadsheet, and that's dangerous because I think too many people, this looks hard, and she's gonna unmask it, that it's really not hard, but you have to pay attention to this because it's like you're driving a car and it goes off the rails really badly, really easily. And on the other side, if you just make some of these tweaks, suddenly you're back on the road and you're not crying the blues. You're not blaming somebody else. You're not coming up with the stuff that makes me crazy, which is a feeling. This
yeah.
is based in facts.
Well, what I always say is every retail store owner I work with, and most retail stores anywhere, have a passion for something. I have a lot of toy store clients. They love toys. They love to play with kids. They love the fun of it. People who make jewelry decide to open a store. They've got a passion for making jewelry. There are people who just had a baby and they couldn't find all the fun baby stuff they want. So they decided it'd be fun to open up a baby store, and they learn how to install car seats and do the CPS seats and all that stuff. They have an enormous passion for that kind of stuff. But what they don't have is the science that goes with their passion, the science that makes their business profitable. And that's what I do. I take their passion and their love for their business and add my science to it, and it's just a game changer. And the reason I know this is because I had my own retail store, and I struggled myself, even as a CPA, to make those numbers profitable until we all love the other part, but until I made some time to use my expertise and go backwards a little bit and figure out some of this stuff, I struggled with it too. So I totally get it. So just quick, where do we find this stuff? So in your point of sale systems, you should have some kind of a sales summary that looks like this. It shows you your selling price before discounts, your selling price after discounts, what your discount was, what your markdown percentage is, your cost, your profit, all of that. And there's a calculation that goes with that markdown percentage. We can talk about that later, but you should have this in your point of
Are
sale.
most of you familiar with this? Put a Y in chat. If not, put an N.
Yeah.
We're not going to take time to help you necessarily find it, but take a picture of it because it's there. You probably just haven't asked your POS, how to do it. So, or worse, you're not considering what a markdown is as something to track, but the machine will know it. Good. We have many people with yeses, so that's good, Jennifer.
That's good. And so for those of you with yeses, I'm going to just challenge you one other time. So if you notice here, I've got a total selling price of $100 and discounts of 25. And so in your POS, your markdown or your discount percentage here probably says 25%. All right. But the way
all choked up talking about numbers.
I know,
I love the
I get
passion.
so excited. But the reality is, in the real world, your markdown percent is not that $25 divided by 100. It's the 25 divided by 75. So it's not 25%, it's actually 33%. So that is a whole nother topic, but
well, it's important because I think, you talked about toy stores and some others. I think it's easy to say, oh, we just put 20% off, the whole store,
right.
even worse, right?
Kristen,
And it sounds in your mind like we just took 20% off when if you looked at it this way, oh my God, we really took 35 or 40.
Yeah, Kristen is saying she has multiple discounts, so this is unclear. But what this is what this is a summary. It's a summary for any period of time. It should be a year if we were using this as a calculation. So it's not about one day or one discount or one sale. It's about the aggregate of what is happening in your store.
Yeah, think about it as a monthly would be the easiest way.
Right. And as far as the financial piece goes, as far as the operating expenses, you're always looking at your total operating expenses as a percentage of sales. So this is a very shortened sample of a financial statement, so I could fit it on a PowerPoint slide, but you can see down here, you've got total operating expenses of 44%. That is, those total operating expenses are 44% of your sales, and that's the number you want. It's that
That's
40.
black and white. That's not like you have to go looking. It's a common language by your CPA. Everyone will call it the same thing. You don't have to,
Right.
it's just a simple matter of there's one of the nuggets you need.
Yes. Okay. So example, we take a store that's got markdowns of 10%, operating expenses of 45%, and they want to see 6% on their bottom line. So their desired net profit is 6%.
Let's stop right there.
Right.
I do a whole exercise on how much do people think a small business makes. And invariably 94 cents out of a dollar. Ask your employees, 98 cents out of a dollar. You're just raking in the money. But if you made 6%, that would be like, that's awesome, because there's a lot in the 3 and 4%. And that's sobering if you're just learning that news, but you can't put in my desired profit is
Right.
90%, for example, because nothing will work, right,
Well, because the
Jennifer?
numbers won't work. And a lot of that depends on the margins in your business. I see some people in here I know own baby stores, and the baby store business is tough because a lot of people are selling, half their business is in gear. And sometimes they're lucky to get 40 points on, 40% initial markup on the gear. That's before you have to discount accessories that you get stuck with because you had to buy them in packs of 6. And now I know that there are some changes in the baby world in the gear, but anyway, you have to have the margin there to begin with. So that desired net profit is going to vary depending on the type of business you have.
And of course, that's where I come in, which is how to sell it. Because if your employees can only sell it at discount, you're in serious trouble as well, because you're never getting the true margin that you're expecting. Everything has a consequence. I think if you took nothing else away from today, that's important to realize.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Jessica, yeah, the margins in grocery are tough, but the difference is that you get turns. So we're going to talk about turns later. I hope we get to them. You can, all of this has to kind of go together in the end. It's a balancing act. Okay, so we've got the markdowns, we've got the operating expenses of markdowns of 10, operating expenses of 45, and desired net profit of 6. So we add those together. I think I could have that.
0.61.
Yeah, okay, thanks. All right, so 0.61. And then we have 1, because that was part of our formula, 1 plus the 10, the markdowns, 1 plus your markdowns. And you get an overall margin of 55%. So in this store, with this kind of a structure, markdowns of 10, operating expenses of 45, and desired net profit of 6%, they need an overall initial markup of 55%. Now, what happens if they can't, if their overall markup is not 55%? Then something here has got to give. Either they've got to lower their operating expenses, they've got to give up some of their net profit, or they've got to lower some of their markdowns. So the formula has to work if you want that desired net profit. Now, this situation could be even worse. It could be, that their expenses are so high that this comes out to 60% or 65%, something that is just completely unattainable in your business, depending on what your business is. So the numbers have to work. And if they don't work, then something has to go or something has to be changed. So just as an example, in a store that has an IMU of 52%, markdowns of 20, expenses of 40%, and a net profit of 3%. If they can tweak that initial markup just a little bit, just get from 52% to 55%, which may mean just really evaluating each product as it comes in and forgetting about what you bought it for, really looking at what you can sell it for, getting that extra $1 or $2 or $3 wherever you can. It makes a big difference. In a store doing $1 million in sales, it makes a 3% difference or $30,000 on your bottom line. So every one of these little steps, just tweaking each one of those things can really make a big difference.
Is this making sense to you? If so, put it in chat. Yes, I'm getting this. Yes, I want more. Put something, let us know you're awake. Come on.
They're awake, they're talking, I see it.
I want to make sure that they're still typing.
So
And Tim has a question for us as well, but let's go back because we are already 17 minutes into the webinar, and you did mention something that I think is important, was turn. That merchandise is sitting there. If it's not turning, that's a whole nother discussion of, milk doesn't get better the longer it sits out. And the same thing that you might have these targets, but if the merchandise doesn't turn in 6 months, if you're buying it and your margin is, whether it's high or low, it doesn't really matter. That's your money sitting there.
That's right.
So it is a matter on my side of the world. Jennifer is looking back and saying, this is what you did, black and white, and then saying, if you did this and this, and then I'm the guy to help you get it there, because the longer the merchandise sits, the more you sit on it and your employees sit on it, it becomes forgotten. So.
Right. I'm laughing at some of these comments. So they're all just examples, guys. I know, smaller stores sometimes can get 40% on Lego. But anyway, so I'm popping up this slide real quick just to show you that in any store, whether it's a toy store, whether it's a baby store, you're going to have your higher margin items and you're going to have your lower margin items. So in a toy store, we've got novelty items that sometimes we can see 60 and 70% in initial markup on. And then we've got, items like Lego, where some days we're lucky to get 30%. I've got 40 here. If it's a small store, they might just cherry pick what they sell and push that initial markup. If they're a gold store, they probably can't do that. But in any case, I'm showing you this because you have to look at it as a whole. You have to look at and this is how you find out where your overall initial markup is. You look at your inventory at retail, you look at your inventory at cost. You should be able to get this out of your point of sale system. The difference is you calculate that IMU. So that's how what you can do right now, right after this webinar, is to calculate your initial markup and see where it falls.
So if we were taking that $50 item, what should its price be?
Well, what did we say? Let's see. If we were taking the $50 item and we wanted
55%.
a 55% IMU, you divide it by the inverse. So you divide it by 45% and you get $111. That makes sense. Are you still there?
Yes, you said this before, and I just want to put it in chat.
Okay, I lost
so
your
that everybody can see it, because that's the important thing, that you can see how we get there. So when we had many people at, I would double it and add $1, you're actually $10 less on that one item than it should be. That's right. What we're talking about. It's serious, big deal. Now we'll talk about some of you have MSRP, and again, I think it's easy to say I can't. I was at a hardware convention one time, and I asked about pricing, and I said, oh, what should this be priced at? And the one said, oh, you mean what it should be priced at, or what I price it so it moves? And isn't that funny? It's like when you're saying I'm not living the life I want, when you're saying I can't pay my bills, when you're saying all these things, and then you come back at the same time and say, and I can't raise my prices, and I can't, and e-com, you've catastrophized yourself into not doing anything.
All right, so Heidi's asking a good question. But would anybody price it at $111? No, I hope not. So that's the whole point, is that we're looking for an average IMU here. So maybe on this product, you can get 115 or 114.99. But overall, you've got to find that initial IMU. So you need to be looking at that when you're pricing products, and then looking at that report in your point of sale system that tells you what your overall IMU is. You should be monitoring that, I'd say, once a month. And when I work with my private clients, I do that. I actually, based on their receivings, I look at their IMUs all the time. I'm always looking at it over 3 months, over 6 months, over 12 months, so that I can see if there's a shift in the trend. If it's going up, great. If it's going down, not so great. We have to have a conversation about that. So
Lara, you're asking a quick question. Is there a reason we're talking markdown over markup? They're two separate things. There's a markdown. I bought it at 50 and I retail at 111 and I had to mark it down. And then the markup is what I am taking it from what I bought to what I am selling it for. Does that make sense?
yeah, this was that in order to figure out what your markup needs to be, you have to understand what your markdowns are.
And an anonymous attendee, whoever you are, says regarding markups, thinking strategically before I'm opening my retail business, what resources could one use to evaluate average markup by industry? I think it's still going to come down to knowing your numbers, and you know, at the end we might be able to take that as well. I want to keep going so that we don't lose. I still have two more things that I want to talk about, and I want to make sure you get into turnover. So
yeah, and regarding that, there should be some kind of industry standard, and you're just going to have to go in search of what that is, depending on the industry you're in.
but it still comes down to, just to finish the thought. So Jennifer has a toy store, and her mom and dad bought the building 5 years ago, 50 years ago, and she's got what her cost of doing business is. And then Mark and John, who decided to open a toy store last week, they went through and well, that's interesting. Okay. They went through and they mortgaged their house to be able to open this. Their cost of doing business is much higher. And when you say, well, we have to be the same as them, it's like, no, because Jennifer has a much lower cost of doing goods. So that's why she can be cheaper. That's why Amazon can be cheaper. But when you adopt that same pricing structure, Jennifer, right, it doesn't work for both. You're going to end up either going out of business or not being able to pay your crew because you're not knowing your numbers.
I mean, in a perfect world, you would have done all this analysis before you open the store, because you're absolutely right. It's something has to give. So either you have to find a way, and this is Bob's thing, but you have to find a way to give better value so that you can charge, you know, more prices, you know, higher prices. Like my point, the numbers have to work. And if the numbers don't work, then you're probably paying out of your pocket to stay in business. And sadly, I see that every single day. By the time people come to me, oftentimes they're tens of thousands of dollars in debt. And this is why, because they don't understand these numbers. It's not instinctive. I didn't understand them myself when I first opened my retail store. So I would say get help. We'll talk about that later.
That's right. Jennifer will be able to help you. Obviously, she has the ticket. She understands how to do this. And if you want to pay to have her help you, you know, it's the same thing. It's just time and money. Or you do it on your own and hope, I'm getting this. But when you really get down to it, figuring that out is the difference between a retailer who is successful and one who isn't. So let's keep going. We'll take a look at our questions as we keep going. But inventory turns. What do you think? What do you think our goal is? I know toy stores, since you were talking about that, love to say, oh, it all sells in December. It doesn't all sell in December, and you've got to figure out what is the correct inventory turn per month, right?
Right. And every industry is different, honestly, and every classification in your store is different. I would love to know who has a concept of how many times they turn their inventory in a year. If you do, I'd love to see you pop that into the chat while I'm going through this. So what is inventory turn? That is apparently nothing because my technology stopped.
So any ideas? Just put it in there. What do you think your turn is? Tim thinks it's 4. Tim, a turn of 4 to me sounds like you do not have enough merch in the store. That's pretty high. And Lydia, yours is less than 1, which to me is the exact opposite, means you are overbought. And I have no idea what it should be, so keep going.
So I don't agree with Bob that if you're turning at 4, that you are necessarily missing sales. I would not. It depends on your industry. So what is it? It's a key indicator of how well merchandise is performing at retail. Technology today. We're gonna go the old way. All right. It does not appear on your profit and loss statement. You're probably not going to find it anywhere. And accounting, just general accounting, your profit and loss statement, it just does not factor in the element of time. Those are just some little tidbits. So the definition, the frequency a business sells their average inventory, their average dollar inventory at
Paul has a question if this is wholesale or is this at retail that you're considering
retail.
it?
It's at retail.
There you go, Paul. Done.
All right, so the calculation, sales dollars, your total sales dollars, and usually you do this over a year's time. Sales dollars over your average inventory at retail. So what does it mean to turn your inventory? This is the part that's just a little elusive. So if there's 52 weeks in a year and you're turning your inventory 2 times a year, that means you have a 26-week supply of inventory in your store at any one time. Like, does anybody really need a 26-week supply of inventory in your store? Like, you really don't, unless you absolutely can't get merchandise.
It would have been sweet during the pandemic when you couldn't get furniture and you couldn't get sewing machines and all that, but that's not usual, right?
And if you were hoarding inventory during the pandemic, you probably ended up okay, as long as it wasn't old crap that nobody wanted. But you know, so 26 weeks. If you're turning your inventory 2 times, you've got 26 weeks supply of inventory that you've gotten paid for, by the way. So we don't have to go through that.
Don't get me started on those vendor, we'll give it to you free for
Yeah.
90 days. That's a whole nother discussion, but anyway.
I hate that discussion. All right. So an improvement of just 1 week in annual sell-through increases your cash flow by approximately 1% of sales. I know that sounds random, but it's the truth. So instead of having a 26-week supply of inventory, you have a 25-week supply of inventory. That increases your turn just slightly. And so for each week that you can, each week's supply of inventory you can reduce in your store, you start to increase your turn. Well, why does that matter? So I'll tell you why it matters. So we have 2 stores here. One, they both do $500,000 in sales. One has a 48% gross margin and one has a 44% gross margin. The store A with a 48% gross margin, which is higher, turns their inventory twice a year. So they've got 26 weeks supply of inventory at any one time. Store B with the lower gross margin turns their inventory 4 times a year. Tell me in the chat, which store makes more money?
Just put A or B.
A or B. Just put A or B. What do you think? All right, I love the answer. So you think I'm trying to trick you, but you're wrong. Store A actually makes more money. They have the higher gross margin, and assuming they both have the same expense structure, store A actually makes more money. But what did it take for them to get there? That's the key. So store A, with their gross margin of $240,000, turns their inventory twice a year. They have, so remember their, did I show you this? Yeah, they have their costs. I didn't actually show you this, but their gross profit on their $500,000 is $240, which means their cost of goods sold is $260, right? The $260 plus the $240 is the $500 in sales. Is that clear? So that $260,000 in cost that they turn twice gives them an average cost of their inventory of 130,000. So it's their cost, 260,000 divided by 2, that's 130,000. That means that at any one time, they've taken $130,000 in cash out of their bank account, out of their line of credit, borrowed from their friends, borrowed from their parents, whatever. They've paid $130,000. They have $130,000 in cash dollars tied up in their inventory. Store B has a lower gross margin. Technically, they've made less money, but their cost of goods is higher. Their cost of goods is 280,000, but they're turning their inventory 4 times a year, which means they only have a 13-week supply of inventory in their store. The cost of their inventory right now is $70,000. So they have only taken $70,000 out of their bank account or out of their line of credit or borrowed from a friend. So that's a $60,000 spread right there. That means they've got $60,000 more in their bank account. So even though they technically made less money on paper, their cash flow is better because they've got less money invested in their inventory. And so they're taking that $70,000 and they're selling it and they're reinvesting it in inventory, and they're doing that 4 times a year. So theoretically, like I said, their gross margin is less, but their cash flow is better because they're tying up less dollars in their
So then is store B the right one?
Store B is the way it should be. I mean, in a perfect world.
Good, because you said, I thought you said A at one point, and I'm just like.
A is making, A on paper makes more money because their gross margin is higher.
Right.
But store B is spending less to make the dollars.
But I'll also add on to that, if your merchandise is turning 4 times, you're doing more work to buy it, to sell it, to go to shows, to.
You need to do that.
Right. It's a lot more work than having something stationary. So there's no mystery here, but there's always complications as we look at it. Somebody's asking if our merchandise is broken down by category, should we calculate per category or just overall?
Absolutely. I mean, if you can, doing it by category is ideal. That's how I do it with my planning clients. We look at everything by category and roll it up to the top. But yes, to your point, Bob, absolutely, it's more work. But if you're going to own a retail store, this is the kind of work you've got to do. Like the ebb and flow of merchandise is everything in a retail store. If you don't think your customers notice that your merchandise is old just because you move it from one corner of the store to another, you're wrong. They know. And in today's day and age, going back to all the discussion about what about the internet and what about MSRP, you have to have the coolest, freshest, newest stuff in your store all the time. That's why customers come to your store. And if it's not cool, fresh, new, and turning, then they just have no reason to come to your store. They can find older merchandise on the internet. Why do they need to come to your store?
All right, let's keep going.
50 cents. All right, I am an inventory planner. This is what I do. This is just a little snippet of what an inventory plan looks like for me every month. And we do look at it every month in every class. We look at sales, markdowns, where we want your inventory to be, what your expected inflow of merchandise is, what you have on order, and then what you're open to buy is at cost and retail. That's what we do. And then we're looking at these turn rates. We're planning them. We're looking at your plan. We're looking at your actual, and we're trying to push them up. And then I told you how I monitor your initial markup, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. These are the kind of things you want to be doing. It's hard to do on your own. I mean, it's 100%. To try to do this on your own, you'd be spending all month.
I just want to bring back, you started out doing this in Excel.
A lot of people start doing this stuff in Excel. Yeah.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah. A lot of people try to, generate their spreadsheets. That really, the inventory planning side is a whole different animal, but the culmination of inventory planning is to give you a sales forecast and an open to buy in every classification in your store, so that you keep your inventory fresh and flowing in a way that supports that sales forecast. So it's just this whole cycle, this whole plan. You know, we plan your sales, we plan your markdowns, and we plan your open to buy in order to hit that turn rate, which keeps your inventory fresh and flowing throughout the store. That's just
And most importantly, takes the money out of the business into your jeans instead of flowing into the business and being upset about it. So you have a little offer for us. Do you want to show that now? I thought we still
yeah.
have, you and I thought we'd leave these slides behind. So if you want to come back to that, we certainly can.
Let's do that.
And then we can talk like human beings, and they'll see
Just stop sharing my stuff.
Lenovo. And
Yeah, sorry.
I think I can stop that somehow.
Stop me, would you? Here, I got it.
Uh,
There we go.
oh, there we are.
All right.
So yeah, it's a big topic, and I know a lot of people feel that it's either beyond them or you know, when someone is just beginning. So like maybe this was a real eye opener for someone. I think it's always a big eye opener for me every time I go into the numbers. What would be a place for somebody to start? Is it gathering information or is it taking action on it? What would be like if there's like one or two things you would say right now, you know, go do this, what would it be, you think?
I mean, I think the first thing is to really evaluate your initial markup. Make sure that you are looking at every item in your store, and you're not looking at the I multiply by 2.2 and add $1. Like, look at what it is and look at how much you can sell it for. And I know you've got internet pressures, and look, I get all that. I've been there, I've done that. But there are plenty of things that you can get away with marking things up a little bit.
Well,
Anything
and let's talk about that.
I've done.
Get away with. The words are so supercharged, right? On my little challenge about the $50, somebody had to say, I don't feel like ripping my customers off. And it's like,
Fine.
really? Like the words that we use is so, I
Nobody
think it's
wants
just,
to rip anybody off. We all just want to stay in business, right? Everybody's got to get paid for their work. So are you getting paid for your work? That would be my first question. Are you getting paid for your work?
and I think people would say no, but yet if you were to call a plumber, you know, if
Right.
the guy wasn't making money turning a wrench and cleaning out a sewer, do you think he'd be doing it or thinking like, I've got to find a way to make money at this?
I talk to retailers all day long who tell me, oh yeah, my store's doing great. I'm trying to figure out how to pay myself. Well, great. So, you know, the formulas have to work. If you wanted to pay yourself, some things, the formula has to work. That's just how it works. The numbers have to work. And I know that there are, all of you, because you're here, are probably doing everything right when it comes to marketing and training your staff
I don't know if
and
I go that far about training, but yeah, keep going.
taking care of your customers. I know that you all have that stuff down pat, but the financial piece is just a whole different ballgame. And it has to fit together, because doing what you love is great. We all want to do what we love, but we still need to get paid for our time. It's just really that simple.
And it's not good going to retail conferences bragging about how we don't make money. It's just like,
No,
there's
and
no point to this. Only you can drive the car, right?
it's
I mean, I can't do it. Jennifer can't do it. You got to be willing to say, I'm going to be diligent about this. And, you know, I'm going to do another 5 minutes of you and I, and then we'll see if there's any questions, Jennifer. But, you know, when we get to loyalty programs, people love to give out free points. Well, I love it. Well, there's a cost to everything,
Yes, so
right?
that on loyalty points, Bob and I may not necessarily agree. I do believe loyalty programs are great, but once again, they have to be structured properly. So Bob and I battle a little bit about this, because the general consensus from the retail coaches who are not focused on the financial end of things is, you know, I see coaches in that realm, not Bob.
Thank you.
Throwing out blanket, percentages. Oh, you have to do this loyalty program and you should be giving 10% back to your people. Well, what if you're in an industry that only has an overall markup, initial markup of 35%? Are you really going to give back 10? And where is that 10% showing up? So going back to that formula on initial markup, those loyalty dollars either have to show up in your markup percentage or your markdown percentage. They have to be either part of your discounts or they have to be part of your operating expenses where they might show up as part of your marketing expenses.
And
But
if not, they're the Trojan horse,
they're a
right?
Trojan horse, and sometimes they're invisible. And I've seen that happen. I've seen it happen where people are ringing up those loyalty dollars as if they're a cash source, they're a payment type. And in that case,
Yeah.
they're literally not, they're showing up as sales, but you're never getting the cash for them. So though all those things have to be accounted for when you're looking to try and balance your numbers.
Perfect. We are getting to what I want. You have to type in what's one thing you got out of our time today. You've spent 42 minutes with us. Some of you might have been a little late, maybe 41. So what's one thing you got out of being here today? Type it in the chat before we go any further. So what's one thing you got out of being at this? What do you have to do? Maybe that's a good way to think of it too. What do you have to do? What did you learn today? Type it in chat. I know it's going to take you a minute. And I want to make sure that you have the time. We're also going to don't be afraid to make margin.
That's right.
That's great. The numbers have to work. Just wrote it on my board above my monitor. Driving force. Barb says tracking down discounts and considering them in our math. Jennifer's look at the initial markup of every product. David, I learned I have more questions. Hey, man, how often is that? Paul, a good nudge to review current margins and discounts. Heather, faster turns means more money in your pocket. Larry, they make smart emu. I have no idea what that. Oh, that's your formula. It's like they give the little emu. Sorry. Chris says take into account the markdown when pricing. Sharon, I need the numbers right so I can be paid for my work. Absolutely. Vanessa, going to go look at my markups. Ron, believe I need to start the process over again. Hey, awesome. Kelly, driving the car, taking control. Thanks for the formula. Kristen, cut products that aren't making reasonable margin. Tim, look at what you can mark something up at, not just a blind 2.2 or 2.4 market. I would go further with that, Tim. Yes, I certainly think you can buy something for $50, and there are people that can retail it at $150 because they've got whether it's jewelry or electronics or there's other things, they've got an impassioned sales force. If you don't have a well-trained sales force, they are never going to get 150 because they bought their stuff online, or they go and they use Shine, or they buy on a used marketplace, or fill in the blank. To get margin this day and age means you have to have confident salespeople that know exactly what they are doing with it. And somebody laughed about Lego, ha ha ha. And I've talked to toy stores, and they're like, "Oh, we can't carry Lego. We can't get it because everybody knows what it costs on the internet." Maybe, but I'll guarantee you, as a dad who needs a present for my kid, and I walk into a toy store, it's table stakes to think, oh, they probably have Lego. I can get something for Lego. And you don't, and then explain we can't get margin. Is that customer service? That's another discussion. So
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm going to look at some of these questions, and then we can wrap this up if you have a few more minutes.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Laura, I feel better about charging for special packaging such as jewelry boxes, which cost me at least 50 cents a piece. Lego is a loss leader. That's exactly it, Vanessa, but you have it. It's a loss leader. I don't care. When you've got the right formula, you understand that is a marketing, maybe that's a marketing expense, really, you think in your head, because not having it for the customer means they definitely are going to go somewhere else, and remember that.
Right.
Barb says, do you know guys who know Shopify if we consult with you?
Do I know guys who know Shopify?
In other words, can you help them with Shopify numbers?
I mean, I have planning clients who use Shopify, yes.
Okay, good. So you have any questions for us before we leave? If we don't have questions, I'm going to let this lady go and do her business. But anonymous attendee says,
Up here.
What about the savings of buying larger quantities at a lower cost and shipping in a full container rather than LTL from the factory? That's a good question, because if you bought, I've had people who say, oh, like in food service, oh, I can become a distributor if I buy, this giant caseload, I could get a real great deal. But you would say, what does that do to the turn, right? You might get a really low cost of goods, but if it takes you 2 years to move it, what's the better way to look at it, Jennifer? Any thoughts?
Um, I, are we on this? Why look at the retail value versus the wholesale cost?
No, it was the idea of, you bought a big container of stuff. You bought a lot of stuff and you get
Oh,
a deal. Is that really, I think it's not a deal, because I think it takes too long to move through it. But what do you think?
well, this goes back to like the program buys for in the toy stores, where they fill their stores up in January with stuff and they get dating through December. And I hate it. I think that if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna get a great price on, well, going back to the program buys, I don't believe that you really should bring in much that you cannot sell in 3 to 4 months, period. In most hard goods stores, toys, baby, whatever, you should be getting 3 to 4 turns a year. So if you can't sell it in 3 to 4 months, you're really just tying up your cash here because you're not getting the turns. And you're not, by not getting the turns, I mean that you've got this money tied up in inventory that you may not sell for a while, and it may be keeping you from having the cash to buy the new hot merchandise that you need today. Therefore, the inventory gets stale in your store. You don't have an opportunity. If you don't have an opportunity to sell it, you don't have an opportunity to make margin on it. So you're losing margin there, or at least margin for that period of time.
And what's the number one thing people come into a retail store to find out? What's new. They don't want to see it.
So if you get a special buy on something, personally, I think you should offer a special buy on something. So, turn it. Maybe you don't get full margin on it, but make it like a big opportunity buy for your customers. Bring it in, sell it, take the money and reinvest it in a container of something else that you can turn in 3 or 4 months. Like,
Great
it
point.
doesn't do anybody any good to sit on that merchandise. It just does.
Excellent.
It's
Excellent.
time.
All right, a
Time.
few more questions here now that we're in the question area.
Don't
Robbie
forget
says,
I have a little presentation still yet.
okay, so I'll just take two more. Vanessa says, we tend to buy more at a time to get freight deals because we're more remote and it gets costly. Is it better to do this and save shipping, or pay the shipping and have better terms?
I mean, that is a question that I get all the time with my own clients. I mean, I have clients all over, even in Alaska. And so, shipping becomes an issue, and you just have to balance it, Vanessa, I guess is my best. Does it make sense to buy, this is what I see. I want $500 worth of stuff, but I have to spend $2,000 in order to get free freight. Does it make sense to save the $50 in freight to spend $1,500 more on goods that you might not really need? And that's how you have to think of it. I
Great.
almost like to pull my clients back a bit from the free shipping, thinking that free shipping mindset, I have to get free shipping on everything. I like to pull them back a bit and then loosen up the reins on the free shipping, if that makes sense, to get them out of that mindset and into the mindset of, do I need it? How much longer is it going to take me to sell it? How much money do I have to tie up? How much am I going to have to discount it in order to get rid of it? Does that make sense?
It does. And I want to emphasize that I think what I want you to take out of this as well is, get out of your doom and gloom, get out of the we can't, get out of the you can. And what Jennifer has shared with us today is an opportunity to see how things can be better. and try to leave all of that negative chatter that you probably are talking in your little groups about how it sucks to be you, how customers are terrible employees, and be careful of the words you're using, because when we come into words like this, when it comes supercharged of markup and markdown, and we get into this feeling of pull back at a time retail has had higher consumer sentiment in the last 38 months. If you aren't making money in this economy, then you better look at these things we've covered today. And many of you can look at it afterwards. There'll be a replay that'll be sent, but you can take small steps now to understand, oh my gosh, I never knew what my turn was, for example.
That's right. And
And Jennifer can help you with that. And I wanted you to share
I do.
your little bit.
Retail's in the details. There is no magic bullet. There are many pieces. They all have to fit together. And if they don't fit together, then something has to give, is basically.
But it usually ends up the owner's salary. That's my frustration.
That is exactly what happens. That is the first thing that goes, or the last thing that comes, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
And it just shouldn't be that way. Everybody should get paid for their working. So I have a brand new way to work with me.
You want to just hit that so you're presenting it. We see your deck, not the actual one slide.
All this darn technology, Bob. Let's see. There we go. Now I got it.
Well, now we're back at the beginning, so it's going to take you a bit to get there. But you keep scrolling through. We'll be right with you.
But I can just tell you that.
Thank you. You'll end up there.
I have a brand new group coaching program. So in the past, and I see some familiar names on this call, people who have wanted to work with me, felt that it was cost prohibitive, and working with me one-on-one every month is expensive, but of course I think well worth it. I developed a brand new offer just for you, Bob, and just for your followers, which is a monthly group coaching program, $149 a month. It does not get any less expensive than that. Once a month, we will dive into one of these topics. You'll go away with homework and a way to apply a strategy to your own store so that you can find way more than $149 in your business in cash on your bottom line. And I have a private Facebook group. There'll be support in the group from your colleagues, from me, from a member of my team. It's an ongoing monthly program that I think you'll find enormous value in it. You can pay monthly. There's an annual subscription if you choose. Just a little bit of detail of just a few of the components we're going to start with. So just an overview of the components that make your store profitable, understanding your financial statements, how to read them, where there are invisible expenses that you don't even know exist and where your accountant won't really discuss them with you. Figuring out when you truly will be positive, cash flow positive, how to develop a break-even plan, pricing for profit, which we've already talked about a little bit, better understanding of inventory turnover, the basics of creating an open-to-buy plan, identifying basic bookkeeping mistakes that can cost your business thousands of dollars. So every month we'll hit one of these topics, and I will help you in your own way, in your own store.
If you aren't signing up for this right now, I have to ask you, what the hell are you staying here for as long as you did? Because
this is how you'll find it. If you just find the hidden cash.
There you go. Because ultimately, numbers are power, and Jennifer's been gracious to share all of this information. But I can tell you, for one, I would be the first guy calling her like, can I go deeper? And I know you can do one-on-one as well, which is great. But to be able to do a group coaching call, if nothing else, than just to make sure that you are inspecting what you expect and not sitting around crying the blues that it sucks to be you. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of retailers making money. There's a lot of people living a great life. And maybe you've cracked that code. Maybe you haven't. I can see a couple of my customers who've done quite well. And you know what the funny thing is? They're the ones on this call all the way to the end. Why? Because they're always trying to figure out, how do I do better? So Jennifer, I want to thank you for your time here today. I hope you all took away something. You have her contact information there. You can always find thehiddencash.com and make you do it. Was this good for you? Write in the comments. Was this a good webinar for you to attend? I don't think I've seen so many people stay all the way in. Was this a good webinar for you to attend? Was it worth your time? Put it in there. Make sure that Jennifer can see that. And I was your host, so I was wonderful too. I mean, you could say that too,
You're
but
wonderful. Thank you
I'm
for
I'm modest on that. So there you go.
thank
Well,
you for leading me down the path, Bob.
well, and thanks for making it easy for all of us to understand. It's an important topic. It's not one that I typically work on, but it is the one that I think most people on this call today can take action on. And please do that. Don't go and check your email or watch a cat video again or whatever happened with somebody on some silly reel or something. Just take this time, go pull out your financials and try to find those markdowns. Are they showing up? Look at your expenses on your accountant's report and go like, oh, I could start to do that figure right now. And by the way, we will send a replay of this. No, we're not going to send you the slides. You can take pictures of slides as you go along. And with that in mind, Jennifer, thank you so much for your time. It's been great having you here.
Thank you, Bob. Please make sure you've got my contact information in case
Take a
my
picture.
policy doesn't work. Shoot me an email if you're not sure, if this is for you, we can hop on a call and talk about it.
That's for you. Everybody should be doing it right now. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Great day. Thanks, Bob.